Hey, this is James, and in this video, I'm doing my first ever book review. So, stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this viewer-requested video. This video was a suggestion from a viewer named Jake. So Jake, if you're watching this video, this, my friend, is for you. Jake has been watching my personal study of cartomancy using playing cards video series, and in one of those comment threads, one of the video comment threads, he asked me if I would be willing to do a book review on a book that I've actually talked about throughout that series, at certain points in the series, called The Card Reader's Handbook by Regina Russell. For me personally, it is one of the foundational books of my cartomancy practice. So I was more than happy to respond to Jake by offering this video. And I'm doing it with the intention of satisfying the request or honoring the request from Jake, but also giving other people who have maybe heard me talk about it throughout that video series and maybe have been on the fence about it, not sure if it was something that they would like to have in their library, something that they believe might even be helpful in their cartomancy practice. Maybe sitting in that space of wondering whether or not to get the book. Maybe the aspects of the book that I share in this video will be helpful, either informing you one way or the other. Like after this video, maybe you'll be really clear that the book is for you and you do whatever you need to do to purchase it. Or you decide, nah, it's a pass, I'll look for something else. Either way, I want to make each and every one of you who watch it maybe a more informed consumer. So with that in mind, let's now get to the table and take a closer look at one of my favorite books on cartomancy, The Card Reader's Handbook. And here we are with the book on the table. That seems a little strange to say because I'm always referring to cards on the table. But this time we're looking at a book. And so this is, as I said in the opening, one of my favorite books when it comes to the art of reading playing cards. This is The Card Reader's Handbook by Regina Russell. So the first thing I thought I would do is I would talk about the aesthetics or the exterior of the book. So here we have, in terms of size, it's a little on the larger side, because it's more like a manual, in my opinion, or a textbook, so it kind of has that size or feel in mind. The cover is a heavy cardstock, so I will point that out. It's like a paper, but it's a heavier paper than the paper on the inside of the book. So it very simply says Card Reader Handbook. The image has 3 playing cards, the 6 of diamonds, 9 of hearts, and the 3 of clubs. And then it has the author's name at the bottom, Regina Russell. If you turn the book on the spine, it says Card Reader's Handbook and Regina Russell. And then the back is plain. There's nothing on there except for the barcode at the bottom. So that is the exterior. As you can see, because of the cardstock quality of the cover, mine is showing signs of wear and tear, and that's because I tend to refer to it quite often. So that's just something for people to keep in mind, especially Jake, because Jake is the person who asked me to make this video. So Jake, I just want you to be aware of the idea that the cover could get a little beat up based on how often you refer to the book. Okay, so now let's start taking a look at the inside of the book. So here we have the title page, and I want to talk here about the printing. So the first printing of this book was in 1976. The second was in 1982, and the third, which is probably this copy that I have, is 1988. So the material, is not current, I would say, just because it's 2021 as I'm filming this. So you might want to keep that in mind if you're looking for maybe more of a modern or current slant on playing cards. This might not be the book for you, but the reason why I have the book is because it was in alignment with the very first book that I got on reading playing cards, which I talked about in my opening video of my personal study and practice of playing cards or reading playing cards, that series. So that's why I have the book, and it doesn't matter to me the year that it was printed. I still find the material very useful, very meaningful, very practical. So, but that is when the book was, at least last printed was in 1988. So now let's take a look at some of the inside of the book going further. Here we have a foreword of some kind by the author. And she really stresses not just about what the cards mean, but she wants to help people become more proficient in reading. So she talks a lot about, and more towards the end of the book, talks about, the art of reading cards professionally, if you choose to go that route. So here on the left we have the table of contents. So she talks about the meanings of the suits, generally speaking, and then she goes into each chapter subsequently talks about the meaning of each suit. So we have the meaning of diamonds, hearts, clubs, spades. Then she talks about how to handle bad news. A chapter that I find especially meaningful and helpful is 3-card fans, which is just really lines of 3 cards. I find that interesting because I tend to read with less cards or fewer cards when I work with playing cards. I'm a fan of less is more, so I do lines of 3 or lines of 5 at the most when I'm working with playing cards. So I find that chapter very helpful. Then she goes into more combinations. Again, that's, showing you what the cards mean to her. Then she goes into the health meanings of the cards. I tend not to focus too much on this particular aspect of the cards, only because my disclaimer as a reader is that I am not a medical professional, so I do not diagnose or offer diagnoses when doing readings. Right? And then the next chapter is time span in card readings, which is a little bit, I find that to be something that you have to kind of experience. I find that like a trial and error kind of thing. So, but that might be of interest. Then how to lay out the cards. She offers her way of laying out the cards. Then this is more towards the slant of professional reading. She offers some viewpoints on phenomena, fallacies, and valuable hints. Then she goes into offering examples of readings. Again, I find this chapter very helpful because I'm very influenced by her style of reading the cards. So I find that chapter very helpful, and I tend to go back and reread that chapter periodically. Then questioning the cards. This is a great chapter. A lot of readers talk about the art of asking questions, and I think that's especially helpful. Then she offers astrological card readings. Now, I don't really use a whole lot of astrology in my readings. Astrology is not my forte, but if you enjoy astrology, you might find that helpful. I know in this chapter she has an astrological wheel, and then she does offer readings that use a lot of cards, but in an astrological sense. And then the final chapter is on ESP, which is extrasensory perception and card reading. So that is the table of contents. And so I'll just flip through the book and maybe occasionally land on something where I want to expound on it. So that's the opening here. Oh yeah, I'll talk about this next. So let me turn here. And here she gives the practical meanings of the suits, which is helpful. So this would be what the suit generally means. I'm not going to read all of them, but I will give you an example. Like for her, diamonds is the suit of thinking. Hearts is the suit of feeling. Clubs is the suit of doing. And then spades is the suit of learning. So that's a practical. Turn the page. Then she offers the spiritual meaning of the cards. As a spiritual practitioner, I really enjoy this aspect of the cards. So diamonds in that respect, it represents spirit. Hearts represents God. And the God doesn't necessarily have to be the God associated with Christianity. For me, I tend to look at that as the God of your understanding. Clubs would be about progress. And then the suit of spades would be about the process of elimination. And then subsequent chapters go into the meanings of the card. So here on this page we have the meanings of diamonds, the suit overall, and then she goes into what each card means. So let's talk about this. So for each entry, she gives you the title of the card, the meanings of the card in her experience, and then she gives you some notes, again, from her perspective as a reader and her history of reading cards. And then she leaves space at the bottom of each page for additional notes. So this would be wonderful. This is where I talked about the idea of a textbook coming in. You could write notes into the book of your experience with the Two of Diamonds, whether you come up with your own individual meanings or notes about like combinations, like when this card appears with another card it means this based on your experience, that kind of thing. And then this is nice because you're expounding on the textbook aspect of it and you're making the book your own, right? So there's a little bit of space on each page for that. I will talk about the typeface here. For me, because it is an older book, the construction of the book strikes me as like it was self-made. So this makes me think of back in the day when, you know, we used maybe typewriters or the early stages of computers. That's how it looks to me, that kind of thing. And then maybe the author found a way to have it personally bound. But for me, the book strikes me as being self-made or self-published even. So that's the feel I get for the book. So again, going back to where we're at, so then you have a page, basically a page for each card, and then shorter descriptions for the court cards or the face cards. So this is the Jack of Diamonds, Queen of Diamonds, and then the King of Diamonds. And then she goes into the next suit. So let's go a little bit further in. So I'm going, this is suit of clubs, suit of spades. She spends a lot of time here. I'll stop here. She spends a lot of time here talking about the meaning of the suit of spades, because the suit of spades really is the more challenging suit in the deck of playing cards, according to Russell. And that's typically how I tend to read them, because I tend to look at the playing card deck as, you know, representing life in its entirety. So one suit, and it would be the spades, tends to stand out representing life's difficulties and challenges. But she goes into great meaning here where she talks about the meaning of the suit. There's like 1, 2, 3, almost 4 pages just talking about the suit by itself before she goes into the meanings of the cards. So that's something you might want to take note of if you were to get the book. And again, here with the suit of spades, we have her meanings, notes of her experience working with the cards in combination with other cards, and then space for additional notes. Okay, so here's the chapter that I was talking about. This, for me, is gold. Again, because I'm always fascinated by how other people choose to read the cards. So this is the 3 Cards Fan chapter. And then she goes into giving examples. So the first thing she does is that she goes into, on this page here, this is page 70, she goes into offering, like, if you get a spade, a diamond, and a club together, what would that generally mean? And then she shows you different combinations just by the suit emblems, right? Not even talking about the actual cards and what the individual cards might mean, but she just talks about the combination of them overall, right? So that might be of interest. And then she goes into giving some 3-card examples. And so the way she lays out, this is a 3-card fan, so actually the card is like one on top of another on top of another. And then she'll tell you what that might mean based on her experience, and she gives several examples of that. And like I said before, this is a chapter that I tend to come back to, one that's especially meaningful to me, and there's quite a lot here in terms of examples. And then she goes into more combinations, and then these are more specific. So like for instance, here on this page, this is page 89, she has the Ace of Hearts and the 8 of Diamonds, and for her, when that pair comes up, it represents the possibility of remodeling a home. And that would make sense because the Ace of Hearts represents home, And then the ace of diamonds represents, something of a monetary nature, or putting money into something, and they're both aces, so that would be the beginning stage or potential for the future. Right, so she lists a number of those. And then she goes into the health meanings here. This is on page 93. And the health chapter is pretty extensive, so if you're into, like I said, wanting to know what the cards mean from a health standpoint, that might be of interest. Then we have the time span, and she introduces a 15 card spread. For me, I haven't used that. That's too many cards for me. Then she does a 12 card spread, 21 card spread. And she gives you a diagram of that here. And so I'm just moving on. You can tell here by the image there's a lot of cards here. So this is a diagram for the 21 card spread. Here is another chapter that I find is gold. And this is on page 118. And this is reading the marriage spread. So this is a great spread on not just marriage, but a relationship that you're interested in doing. And I actually want to do a video on this one at some point in the future, because I use this spread quite often, and I will share how I use it, because I don't do a lot of relationships or love readings for myself, because I am blissfully single, so there's no need for that. But I have found another way to use this particular spread, so I will share that in another video if it's of interest. So if you find that you'd like for me to elaborate on that or make a video about that, please let me know in the comments below. Okay, but this is the marriage spread. She tells you how to read it. And then this is the chapter I'm going into phenomena, fallacies, and valuable hints. This is more about her experience reading the cards and offering that as guidance or advice if you want to move forward in that. And here's an example of, then she goes into examples of readings. This is a 15 card spread. Again, I tend to kind of gloss over this because it's a lot of cards and I don't use that many cards when I do playing card readings. Yeah, so she continues on for a number of pages using the bigger spreads. And you will find that to me is a characteristic in older books that talk about cartomancy, is this idea of using a number of cards, a lot of cards. But like I said, just for me personally, I tend to be a fan of less being more. So I tend not to really focus too much on these particular chapters where she uses a lot of cards. But if you're a fan of that, you would probably find that interesting. Then here on page 188, we have the idea of questioning the cards. Now here's another example chapter that I find worth the purchase of the book. And so here we have 6 cards. And so this is the answer spread. So I will make note of that particular spread in the description box, as I made a video about that. That is my favorite spread to use when I work with playing cards. And so she goes into the question. So she asks the question, and then she'll show you what the cards mean. And she has a diagram at the top of the cards that actually turned up. It's a very simple diagram. It just has a square with the number of the card and the emblem, suit emblem. But she gives a few examples of those, and I really love these examples. They are so, in my opinion, so helpful. And then she goes into astrological card reading, and so I'm going to kind of gloss over this because I don't use it. I'll turn back here. If you are an astrology buff, here's a page that has the astrological wheel and how she lays out cards around it, and a card in the middle for the focus. So like I said, that's not my forte, so I don't really spend a whole lot of time with that. And then she, closing out the book, this last chapter is on the ESP. And that is actually the book. So that is kind of a quick review of the Card Reader's Handbook. So this was for Jake, but if anybody else lands on this video and you were thinking about getting the book, I hope you found that helpful. If there's a more specific question about the book, now that you've seen it from a general standpoint, just let me know in the comments section below, and I'll be more than happy to answer your question. So again, this is James Himm Mitchell going over one of my favorite books on playing card cartomancy, the Reader's Handbook by Regina Russell. And that will wrap up this video. So thank you for sharing this space here with me as I walked through my very first book review. And I should say, as I'm closing with that, the idea of doing a review on it, I'm kind of biased because I've already alluded to it being one of my favorite books. So there is a slant or a skew there on my part. But the idea here is it's not necessarily a review on like what I think of the book from a critical standpoint or a constructive feedback standpoint, but just showing you what the book looks like and what is generally contained within its pages. So thank you for sharing the space here with me, like I said before, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you in our next video together. So until then, take care, and I hope you're having a great day.